one of the areas that popped up was Hillman.
Oh, yeah, he's
I think we'll get started.
Let's talk after the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And they'll be the ones that are.
Yeah. Anyway, you think I have time to
Okay. We think it's 10 a.m. We know it's Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. Meeting number 553, and we're in Lake George, New York. And good morning, everyone. We're glad to see you all. I hope somebody makes arrangements for some spring weather soon, because it's still cold. Why don't we approve the meeting minutes and fiscal actions for February 2026, and we'll start with the approval of the meeting minutes for February 2026.
So move.
Motion's made.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, it's carried. One abstention. That's right. How are you? The only time you're out is when you have something being removed from your body. How many parts you got left? Approval of fiscal actions report for February 2026.
So move.
Motion's made.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, carried. How about a project review actions report from Commissioner Vice Chairman Stanek?
Resolution 2026-10, accept project review actions report. Whereas the Commission has received and reviewed the project review actions report prepared by the staff and dated March 17, 2026, and whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review actions report, now therefore be resolved that the Commission directs that the project review actions report be incorporated in the minutes of the full Commission meeting. So moved.
Second.
Motion made, motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, carried. Thank you. Item 4 is our beloved Lake George Battlefield Visitor Center. John Denuzzo, the president, is here this morning to tell us about a project they want to entertain, and I would presume they might be looking for some moral and financial support from the Park Commission if we so agree, etc. Mr. Denuzzo, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. I come before you again. We were here back in October and got your approval for a project which turned out to have some obstacles associated with it that we weren't anticipating. So we're here in lieu of that. We expect that that will come to fruition ultimately, but it's going to take months, if not years, to kind of secure that. So in lieu of that, and to get something in place for this season, we have an alternate proposal to create a model of a sloop. Now, in the 18th century, the British built and used 3 different types of vessels on Lake George. The bateau, which I think most are familiar with, and there are 7 of them lying in the water off the shore of Weowaka. A radeau, which is more of a warship, that actually there is the land tortoise radeau that is in 100 feet of water a couple miles north of the head of the lake. We have models of both of those in our visitor center. The third type is a sloop, and in the proposal, we have Russ Bellico, a very esteemed historian who's a former member of our board, still very actively involved with us, who's put together a proposal for a model to construct the sloop Earl of Halifax, which was the largest of the vessels built at Lake George. This one in particular was built here in 1758, played an important role in 1759 as General Amherst captured Fort Carillon, known since then as Fort Ticonderoga. And since then, the sloop has almost a legendary status. We don't know where its remains are, probably somewhere in the lake, but we don't know exactly where the remains are. So it's a mystery, and we'd like to kind of close the loop, if you will, in exhibiting the types of vessels that were used emanating from what's now Lake George Battlefield Park and the south end of Lake George. The model will take some special doing because there is no set model setup to do it, so it's going to have to be handcrafted by an expert. Despite the name of Dandy Funk Arts, they're very highly regarded. They have several models on display in various museums in eastern New England, as far south as Baltimore, as I understand it. And they pass muster for Russ Bellico, which is good enough for me. A display case and also display table would be part of that. And the total amount of this is $7,750. We believe we can have it in place early in the summer in the visitor center. Of course, the Park Commission would be a full participant, as you have in the past, for new displays that we present to the public. So that's our proposal. As always, we will stay attuned to the parameters that the Commission sets for us. We will pay the money up front and seek reimbursement based on the receipts we submit to you and all that. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. Yes, go on.
I have two questions. One is, do you have, were there plans, since you can't see the actual boat anywhere?
John was kind enough to share, excuse me, a PowerPoint with us. I don't know if you want us to fire that up for you.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I interrupt you because you were on a roll, but I do have your presentation queued. If we just kind of part the seas a little bit, I can.
Okay.
Turn the lights down.
Sure. Thanks, Justin.
No problem.
There's actually,
I don't have to move, do I?
this is a contemporary sketch, which is not in the PowerPoint, of what it looked like.
You get the controls.
Uh-oh.
It's already up, so you can advance forward, back. The center button is a laser.
Okay. Thanks, Justin. There we go. So you know about the Battlefield Park Alliance. This is basically the same slide I gave to you in the past. This is a painting that the original of which we have in the visitor center currently. That shows the head of Lake George, and actually on the lower right you can see a roadway leading from the head of Lake George. That's modern day Fort George Road, which is basically in the same footprint as it was in 1758-59. This shows the stockaded fort, which was in existence in 1758, and also the beginning of the construction for Fort George. But most relevant to this is you can see the dock in the lower right, and that is the colonial dock that is marked with the historic marker on the right there. And you see perpendicular to it, that is a sloop. Whether it's the Earl of Halifax, I'm not sure, but basically that represents the size and also the usefulness of that kind of vessel and that era. So the size of it was massive, 14 cannons, 12 swivel guns, and as mentioned, it was 70 feet in length and weighed over 100 tons. It had an important role to play in 1759. It was constructed here in 1758, and we really feel that was the turning point kind of vessel that the British had constructed. I mean, this was, for the size of Lake George or even Lake Champlain, it's just a massive vessel to have on the water. So we think this will be an awe-inspiring kind of model to present. And as mentioned, I mean, this is the breakdown of the cost. We have the model constructing company, which is based in New Hampshire, I believe. The display case, which is going to match exactly what our cases currently are, although this master, Daniel Martin, did not construct the others, but he has the dimensions of the display case that we need. And the display table is from the same company, Jacob Enterprises in Utica, which will present, again, a matching set of displays for the other two vessels that are already under display at the visitor center. And that's the crux of the proposal. And again, thank you for the question. Did you have a second question?
Yes, I did. The original ship was 70 feet long, I
Yes.
think you said? How
Yeah.
big is the model?
It is going to be slightly under 4 feet. Let me see if it might be on this. The last I saw it was 3. Well, it's like 3.5 feet.
Okay.
By 2, I believe.
That's all I need, 3 to 4 feet in range? I just was
Yes.
curious. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any questions? Others?
It'll take a special park commission sticker.
Yes. Is it
It's equipped.
You can rinse it off if you want. Put it on display or anything. Well, I appreciate again your consideration and your ongoing support of what we're doing. We're very compatible, I think, and it's very important that the support you have given us and the encouragement since the opening of the Visitor Center in 2022 have been very large for our success. So thank you again.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good neighbors, good tenants. All those argumentative as to who's the tenant or the other. We're both tenants, I guess. Do we have any kind of a resolution?
Of note in the resolution, because last time we authorized up to $10,000, the new resolution just mirrors that. I'm seeing John's pitching a little under 8,000. I don't know if we want to keep the 10,000, so we have some wiggle room in case costs go over.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Resolution 2026-11, funding approval for Battlefield Park Visitor Center. Whereas the New York State Legislature, through Article 43 of the New York State Conservation Law, empowers the Lake George Park Commission to promote the study of history, natural sciences, and lore. And whereas the commission worked for 2 years with the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance in creation of the Lake George Battlefield Park Visitor Center, and seeks to continue the partnership with this nonprofit group to advance the public's knowledge and awareness of Lake George regional history. And whereas the Alliance has identified a need to enhance the Visitor Center with the addition of a display and information related to the important naval history of this unique area. And whereas the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance seeks to commission the construction of a museum-quality model of the sloop Halifax, which was part of the historic sunken British fleet of 1755. And therefore, the Commission previously authorized up to $10,000 for the creation of a magnum for the Visitor Center, Resolution 2025-42. The Alliance seeks to reallocate these funds in furtherance of the present proposal. And the Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance will manage this effort and provide additional funding for this initiative as needed. Now therefore, the Commission hereby agrees to partner on this project and authorize the Commission staff to contract with the Alliance for the work to be completed and to remembrance cost of up to $10,000. So moved.
Motion's made.
Second.
Second, any conversation?
I just have one question. Are we, with this, I don't see the words in there, are we rescinding the other 10,000 that it seems to me we're now approving 2 projects. And is that okay? I'm okay with that.
The intent was to reallocate, and so inherently to rescind and
But I didn't see anything
Redistribute.
about rescinding, so it seems to me we've just approved a second project, which I think we've got funds to do both.
It just says reallocate. It just says reallocate the
It
funds.
does?
It should say,
So if
Was
you
I
wanna-
sneezing when he read that?
We can tighten that up if you want, but that's the intent, is to
That's fine.
not fund the
Deal.
mannequin.
But it does say you're satisfied with reallocate.
That's perfect. Thank you, I didn't see that.
Is the ice out yet? All in favor?
aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, that motion's passed.
Thank you.
Get carving. Right there. Thank you. Okay. Item 5. Our Justin,
What's that?
Good morning.
Good morning. You're going to talk about the Lake George Park Commission Boat Inspection Program.
Yeah, it's this new thing. I don't know if any of you guys have heard about it. As you alluded to already this morning, Chairman, it doesn't quite feel like spring, but according to my calendar, 3 weeks from tomorrow, we'll be inspecting boats. So I figured now would be as good a time as any to kind of revisit the boat inspection program and why we do it. So this chart behind you, many of you have seen it, and it says a lot. So basically, why do we seek to prevent an invasive species as opposed to manage it? And so introduction is in the origin of the chart. So we're the lower left corner. You can see that's green. Green is good. So it's simple to prevent the introduction. It's much more expensive and complicated to control and manage an invasive species once it's already been introduced. And eradication is essentially impossible at that point. So let's use Lake Tahoe as a case study. So in around 2003, as the Asian clam was introduced or detected, and they did not act quickly enough, and by 2010, you can see this photo on the right. Their beautiful sandy areas were just totally covered with dead clams and shells, and the density was really quite significant, with over 3,000 clams per square meter just 7 years later. And 2 years after that, in 2012, that density had doubled to 6,000 clams per square meter. And so those once beautiful sandy bays were clogged with shells, and as those clams died off over winter and the nutrients were released back into the water column, you would have algal blooms. And again, management is expensive, and it's not always successful. We have struggled ourselves with Asian clam management here in Lake George, and so if it's possible to prevent an introduction, that's a much preferred scenario. And so what are the other impacts besides, ugly masses of shells? Well, those ugly masses of shells, in this case, for Asian clam love to hang out in those beautiful sandy beaches where everybody else loves to hang out, right? So imagine the $1 Million Beach looking like that photo there. I probably wouldn't go swim there. I'd be worried about cutting my feet on shells. And so you've got the risk for severe economic loss through decreased tourism, recreation in the area. The economy of Lake George centers on tourism and recreation, and the draw of Lake George makes this a highly desirable place to buy lakeshore property, and those property values will drop. You're going to have increased maintenance costs associated with water supplies, for example. Public and private water supplies get clogged with shells, and so there's more frequent maintenance requirements, and not necessarily Asian clams specifically, but other invasive species can also affect docks. They can attach to docks and require additional maintenance costs there. And in 2009, a Lake Tahoe study estimated that the combined impact of all those effects could be greater than $20 million annually. And so why mandatory inspections? Why is this the preferred alternative? Because it provides the strongest protection for the lake, and specifically the clean, drained, and dry standard is preferred because you can visually inspect a boat, and you can see attached mollusks. Like, so this top photo On the left is a zebra mussel, and on the right is a quagga mussel. And the bottom photo, you can clearly see there's some mussels on that outdrive, right? And that's, you can see that from a mile away. That's obvious. What you can't see is perhaps that boat has water in the bilge, and there are juvenile quagga mussel veligers in the water in that boat. You can't see them. You'll never see them without a magnifying glass. You'd have to collect a sample and put it under a scope to determine whether or not that water is safe for Lake George. And so by instituting a clean, drained, and dry standard, we don't allow any water from outside Lake George to be introduced to Lake George to prevent those non-visible stages of life from being introduced. And with it being mandatory, compliance doesn't rely on good faith, right? So you can have the boater who fully believes in the importance of preventing the spread of invasive species, but if it's not required to submit, imagine a scenario where a family has driven many hours to get here, right? And the kids are yelling, they just want to get out of the car, they want to get out on the lake, and if you don't have to stop and go a few minutes out of your way to get an inspection just to get the kids happy, then maybe, even though you know it's worth doing, maybe you skip it. And if it's mandatory, you eliminate that risk. So boat inspections, what's the process? What's required here? So all trailered vessels must be inspected and, if necessary, decontaminated prior to launch. And we use green seals and red seals to essentially tie the boat to the trailer. And so a boat can be inspected and, if necessary, decontaminated. And then when they go to their preferred launch on Lake George, whether it's one of the the main launches, or if someone's headed over to their motel of choice that has a launch, they can, that seal indicates to the launch operator that this boat's been inspected and it's safe for them to launch. And when the boat is launched, that seal, a little wire that holds it on, breaks, the seal falls off, and they go on their way. And when the boat is retrieved from Lake George, we can apply a red seal. A red seal indicates that it's come out of Lake George, and Lake George does have invasive species. So the red seal indicates to other programs in the region that this boat has come out of Lake George. And so, for example, Trout Lake, which is in the Lake George watershed, a boat that comes out of Lake George would not be something we want launching into Trout Lake, because Trout Lake does not have the 5 invasive species that Lake George does. So a boat arriving to launch at Trout Lake, for example, with a red seal on it, should not be launched. And other lakes in the region with steward programs can know the risk of that boat with a red seal on it. And so if that boat gets sealed on exit from Lake George, comes back to Lake George next weekend, and that seal is still in place, they don't have to go through the whole process of a full inspection, because our staff know what that red seal means. It means it came out of Lake George, it can go right back in, right? So we just document the interaction, essentially, and remove the seal, and they're good to go. However, if that boat launches elsewhere, they take, perhaps it's a local fisherman, and he goes out in the Hudson the next weekend with 121 invasive species. When that boat comes back to Lake George, it's a significant risk, right? And that seal is gone because it's been launched and the seal has fallen off, and it now requires a full inspection. And that inspection is not particularly time consuming. It's about 5 minutes to go bow to stern and go through all the components. So it really is not that inconvenient. And so this year, and every year, our program will operate from April 15th, weather permitting. Well, hopefully the ice is out by April 15th this year. I heard reports that it's still pretty thick. So weather permitting, April 15th, 3 Wednesdays from now, we'll be out there. And we'll operate all the way through until December 1st, unless it continues to be warm and conditions allow us to stay into December. And as always, the decontamination is free. There's no cost for the inspection. There's no cost for the decontamination. and we have 5 regional inspection stations. There's one in Lake George at the $1 Million Beach, one at the Norwell Marina. We have one at the Rogers Rock Campground in Hague, the Mossy Point Public Boat Launch in Ticonderoga. And a few years ago, we worked with the Adirondack Watershed Institute to take over their location at South Bay. They had trouble securing staffing for that location, and we were looking to kind of assist in reducing the export risk from Lake Champlain, so close to Lake George. So it really was a great partnership. They were very generous, and they left the garage structure that they had purchased on site for us. So our equipment is stored in that garage that they paid for, and we have installed an office and some utilities there to make that a more permanent location. And as time has passed, the local boating public over there are more receptive to our presence, and so that was a good benefit for both organizations, because that allowed AWI to relocate one of their decontamination units to another location in the interior of the park. So that was a win for both organizations. And so what are the results? So the cost is about $750,000 a year, and again, there's no cost to the boaters, and that expense is borne via collaboration between local municipalities and local organizations and the state of New York through Environmental Protection Fund monies. So there's no tax dollars going towards this program, and there's no out-of-pocket expense to the boaters. And you can see the table on the bottom left breaks out the funding source for last year's program. And the table on the right is program stats for all time. So we are, this season we will cross the 400,000 boater contact threshold, which is pretty cool. We average about 32,000 contacts a year. So that's boats coming in and out. So we have opportunities to talk to boaters more than once, right? So we get them on the way in and explain the program, its value, and why we're doing it. And then on the way out, we have the opportunity to educate them on the importance of draining their vessels. Obviously, they can't be dry because they just came out of the lake, but pulling the bilge plugs and draining live wells and drying out the equipment. Those are all required processes in order to get that red seal that we apply. And what's an interesting number? That number of boats decontaminated were over 15,000 decontaminations, and over 2,600 boats with visible plant matter. And that's not necessarily 2,600 boats with invasive species. Sometimes people park their boats in a hayfield and they come in with grass, but that's cause for decontamination. And so of all those vessels that were decontaminated, almost 10% have confirmed visible invasive species present. And so again, here's that 15,000 decontaminations. This chart, this bar graph, shows an interesting trend. So in 2014, that was the first year, and then 15, 16, you can see there's a significant increase in decontaminations, and I like to believe that is our staff becoming more comfortable with saying to a boater, stop, and doing the decontamination and being comfortable with doing that work, right? So I believe that's what those significant increases are. And then you can see the peak in 2016, and from 2016 down to 2023, it's a decrease every year, which I believe is a good thing, right? So that's boaters recognizing the fact that you show up with a boat that's not clean, drained, and dry. That 5-minute inspection is now maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes, or we've spent an hour on boats, depending on how busy the site is and how dirty the boat is. So it's not only in the lake's best interest, but the boater's best interest to show up clean, drained, and dry. And I will note that in 2023 we had significant staffing turnover, And so I believe some of the increase we're seeing from 23 to 24 and back into 2025, again, is the new hires, again, coming into their own and being more comfortable. Those 2025 numbers are still lower than 2022, where was, before we had that loss of kind of institutional knowledge in the inspection staff. So again, I think we're trending down, which is awesome. And so here's the interesting stuff, right? So what have we intercepted? So we've collected almost 1,600 samples of confirmed invasive species. So that's 1,600 chances of an invasive species being introduced into Lake George. And, so again, think back to that chart that we saw, that second slide with that red and green graph. And so this 1,600 is not a small number. And again, that's about 10% of decons. And so I will say that it's possible that there have been more interceptions that we just can't verify, because certain samples that have been collected are just so degraded that they can't be identified. You can't tell what it is. And also those non-visible veligers that might be found in standing water. We don't collect water samples and send them to a lab for, to be inspected under microscope. So it's possible that there were, on those. So if you note the quagga mussels, we've had 15 interceptions of quagga mussels. You could have had quagga mussel veligers in the bilge of those boats as well. So it's possible that there were more, but obviously we can't verify that. And so any of those species in red are not found in Lake George right now. And those species of particular concern being quagga mussels and hydrilla. So for 2026, we are opening, of course, weather permitting, April 15th at 4 out of 5 locations. South Bay, since it's not directly on Lake George, we delay that until May 1st. And we will also close that site after Columbus Day weekend. Boat traffic drops precipitously to Lake George from that site after that. So that's just a programmatic cost savings. And so for the on-lake locations, so Million Dollar Beach, Norwalk, Riders Rock, and Mossy Point, you can buy your Lake George Park Commission vessel registration decal, which is required for all boats. This year we are looking to get some data related to how many wakeboard boats are coming to Lake George. So because our program is mandatory, pretty much everybody who's coming to Lake George, we see them, right? So this is an obvious way for us to kind of get a simple count of how many wakeboard boats are coming to Lake George. And we're not going to collect vessel size information. We're not tracking like the length of the boat or anything like that, just a simple tally. And so that's going to require some modification to our record keeping, but that's pretty straightforward. And if anyone wants to learn more about the program, there's the link to our boat inspection webpage, so you can view information about the inspection process. We've got all of our historical annual reports are there, and information about locations for the actual inspection station. So that's all on that webpage. Does anybody have any questions?
Well done.
Thanks, Justin. Great job and great program. You list the water chestnut as it wasn't colored red. So we consider that.
Did I do that?
As part of the lake?
I did.
Not?
No, so that should have been red.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Should we be concerned that we don't have control over the boat inspection station at I-87 northbound of the Hudson River?
I don't think so. So we do, the data that we collect allows us to track, we're looking to see, is the boat sealed, yes or no? What color is that seal? Red or green or orange or blue. There are some other seals that other programs use. And the Exit 18 location, managed by the Adirondack Watershed Institute, they are still using the green seals, but the seal is, it's printed with 80K clean instead of New York State Lake George Park Commission, so it looks the same, but once you go to record the serial number on that seal, our staff can identify that it's from a separate program. And at the end of the year, we do a query to see how many boats are coming to Lake George after having stopped at that location, and every year it's less than 500 boats. So it's like less than 5% of the boats that come to Lake George with a seal have stopped at that site. So it's not a significant number. So it hasn't really been an issue. There have been a couple of phone calls. I talked to a gentleman last year who, came up from Long Island, and he stopped at Exit 18, and they did an inspection, and he got a seal. He went to the Norwell Marina to launch, and when he went through our inspection station, our staff saw that seal was there, and we're all human. Things slip through the cracks every once in a while, but every once in a while we will see a boat with one of those seals that still has visible plant matter. Usually it's in a hard to see spot, but our staff are really thorough, and so even when that boat from a separate program has a seal, we will still do a cursory inspection just to make sure, because it's not our program, right? And their standards are very slightly different. And this particular gentleman was not particularly pleased, having already stopped and made the effort, right? He did the right thing, he made the effort, and our staff said, oh, hold on, we're gonna do an inspection. He's like, what are you talking about? I already did that. No, you're not gonna inspect my boat. So that was an interesting afternoon for staff and that individual, but it all worked out fine. The gentleman called the office, and I had an opportunity to talk to him and kind of explain the differences between our two programs and why our staff still do a cursory inspection of boats with seals from other programs, and he gets it, right? So we have very little pushback from anybody about this program. The first year there was a lot because it was new, right? But this is going to be our 13th year of boat inspection. It's not new anymore. Everybody knows. So that has helped. Any other questions?
May I ask a question? Justin, why are you interested in how many wakeboards are coming into the lake?
So wakeboard boats are complicated to decontaminate because they have ballast tanks. So they're pumping water from wherever they are into the boat for added weight, so they sit lower in the water and they have a bigger displacement and they make a bigger wake, which is more fun for wakeboarding. The problem is the pumps that discharge that water, when they pump that water out, they never get all of it, right? And so decontaminating those vessels is time consuming because a lot of times those ballast tanks are not plumbed together. You might have multiple pumps and multiple tanks, and it uses a lot of our water to do that decontamination, and so it's very time consuming. And for locations that don't have access to fresh water on site, best case scenario, we start the day with 400 gallons, and some of these boats have 300 gallons worth of ballast tanks. It's a lot of work, and it's challenging to do that decontamination. So it helps us plan for how we need to potentially modify our decontamination setups in the future, because it seems like we're seeing more wakeboard boats, but that's anecdotal. We can't quantify, are we seeing more, or is it seems like we are. So we're trying to start collecting the data so we can get a baseline for assessing how many are coming.
And if you do find that there is indeed a significant number of wakeboard boats, will you start modifying the protocols? And if so, when would you start doing
Yeah, so we have, so my counterpart, Ben Marshall, and I have been in talks with the western states. They have a decontamination think tank, so it's a group of program managers from a lot of the western states. So like Colorado has a statewide mandatory boat inspection program, and so our program is modeled on some of those western states programs, but particularly the Colorado program. And so we have been in talks with those people because they've sort of already, they're a little bit ahead of us in terms of modifying their decontamination equipment setups. The equipment that we have is great, but it's not specific to boat inspection. It's more like equipment cleaning. And it does work, but as the equipment that we have starts to be kind of reach end of service life, you actually can't even buy the decontamination units we have now from the manufacturer anymore. So we're trying to plan ahead for like, okay, as our Landas are being phased out, what are we going to replace them with? What is the latest and greatest method?
And a related question, is the Lake George Park Commission concerned about the impacts of wakeboard boats on shore erosion and the way that smaller lakes are throughout the park?
Yeah, definitely. And so, in terms of boat inspection, decontaminating them is a concern, but obviously shoreline erosion is a problem as well. So starting to collect, data so we can assess trends over time and the impacts on lakeshore erosion will also be beneficial.
Thank you, Justin.
Sure.
Good report. Moving on. Randy is item 6, Class A Marina, Town of Bolton. Your
That's me.
subject.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so we have an application from Carrie's Lakeside Cottages. Bill Fowles here to discuss. The applicants would like their Carrie's Lakeside Cottages is located up in Bolton Landing, and they would like to take 5 pre-existing slips that they normally use for folks that are renting cabins. They want to turn those into 5 seasonal slips and become a Class A marina. The facility complies with requirements for restrooms, parking spaces, and trash receptacles. And also new to your packet, as of yesterday, the town of Bolton's Planning Board approved the project for their change in use on Thursday of last week, so that's new to the application there. Other than that, Mr. Fowles here to speak and answer any other questions if there's anything else we have.
Would you like to make any comments, sir?
Yeah, my name is Bill Fowle. Just that nothing is going to change on the property. The docks are finished and will not change at all, and the parking spaces for the cars exist also. So that's pretty much it.
Very good.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the people that will rent, that used them in the past, what will they do with boats?
They were not rented in the past. They were used, though. The intent with the cabins on the property now is to not open them up. And I know I had mentioned to Randy through emails and correspondence in the past that I wasn't planning on having overnight guests there, and I still do not intend, but I would like the option of maybe partially renting cabins this summer to keep my options open a bit money-wise, but I do not intend to rent cabins, but I will ensure that the parking spots for the boat rentals will be intact and available. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so if you do rent, and someone has a boat, they're gonna have to launch it off of a...
Oh, yeah, no launching, if that's what your question.
They'd have to go to Norwell or
They would have to
someplace.
go to Norwell, yes.
And then just find a place to keep it on the trailer or someplace.
Well, it'll be at the dock. The trailer itself, I'm not going to provide parking for trailers.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Do we have a resolution?
Yes, Resolution 2026-12, approve A-Class Marina A Marina. Application number is M25-5009. Applicant is Carey's Lakeside Cottages, whereas the applicant has applied for a new Class A marina, and the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record, and the Commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, 6 NYCRR 617.5, and as lead agency for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment, and whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3. Public notice has been published and distributed consistent with the regulations. And the applicant has demonstrated that the facility complies with the Class A marina requirements of 6 NYCRR 646-1.2B. And whereas the Commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not have an undue alter the essential character of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact in the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves the above application as proposed. So moved.
Motion's made, motion seconded. Any further discussion?
Just one point on the resolution itself, the location has the wrong address. On my resolution,
Oh,
it should have the Bolton, it's got the one from,
okay. It's 3 lower.
yeah, that's the one.
Oh,
that's the
Lake
next
George
one.
Village. You mean
Yeah.
Bolton?
It
Yes.
should, yeah.
It's Bolton. Yeah,
Okay,
good catch.
so we've amended that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing no nays, motion's passed.
Thank you, Board.
Congratulations. Have a good
Good
summer.
luck.
Thank you.
Next, item 7, we're going to talk about a tour boat and marina modification for the village of Lake George. You have some background, Randy.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a twofer, if you will. So we're going to modify, the applicant is looking to modify the tour boat permit by adding a second tour boat. And then the marina also then has to modify their permit so that they can replace a seasonal berthing slip with the tour boat. True North Boat Tours is the applicant for the second tour boat. Captain Vito Casanova is here to discuss that. The marina in question is the Lake George Beach Club. This is in the village of Lake George. It's in Zone 1A on our recreation study, and most recently it was determined that Zone A is over capacity, but the tour boats will be going in and out of that zone. And also to note, in the study of 2025, that during the viewing of that and the counting of the boats, there were 68 total boats in that Zone 1A, but 61 of those were kayaks. So they'll be passing through that, and most of those kayaks are up north, so, and there's other tour boats operating in that area as well. So it's just a normal process, I guess, just adding an additional tour boat. And I think that's about it. Other than that, Captain Vito Casanova is here to discuss his, leave anything out, fill any holes.
Thank you, Randy.
Great to receive as well.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Vito Casanova. I'm the owner and operator of True North Boat Tours. It's my partner, Mr. Teresi. Justin's presentation is not the most convenient one for me to follow, so please keep an open mind. I look forward to answering any of your questions you may have to the best of my ability. So my request today is for approval to operate a wake boat as a public vessel. This addition will allow us to diversify our services and better meet the expectations of our modern visitors to Lake George. To the best of my knowledge, there is only currently one other tour boat operation utilizing a wake boat, so I don't believe that the addition of a single vessel will create any negative impact on the lake's environment when operated responsibly. True North Boat Tours began its first season in the summer of 2023, and we are now preparing to enter our fourth season. Since inception, we have completed hundreds of successful charters, equating to thousands of satisfied guests. A consistent theme in guest feedback is that their day on the boat was the highlight of their Lake George trip. We have also achieved a strong retention rate, with many guests returning year after year. To date, we have earned 64 original organic reviews on our Google business page, and all of which are 5-star reviews, I might add, with some having detailed testimonials. So I take great pride in that. Each year, our business has grown in popularity, and we are now at a point where we are unable to keep up with incoming demand. As a result, I am seeking to add a second vessel to our fleet in order to expand operations and better serve our customers. Last season, I brought on an additional captain to assist with charters. This allowed us to increase our operational capacity and confirmed that we have outgrown a single boat, single captain model. The addition of a wake boat represents the next step in delivering a premium, memorable experience for visitors to Lake George. Wake surfing is an activity I personally come to value. It's safe, it's controlled, and accessible to guests of all experience levels. It enhances the overall charter experience while maintaining a strong emphasis on safety and professionalism. Our brand is built around the tagline, "Your friend with a boat," and that is the atmosphere we consistently provide. We strive to create a welcoming, enjoyable environment while maintaining professionalism and safety protocols, helping guests develop a lasting appreciation for Lake George. Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you. Do we know who else operates a wakeboard as a charter boat?
Oh, what's the name? Connie was here, she would know.
It's
Might be Admiral
ADK,
Boat Tours?
yeah.
Yeah, ADK Boat Tours.
And where are they docked out of?
I think they're at Bolton, maybe?
The Flamingo Hotel in Bolton Landing.
Flamingo.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the only thing that I'll add, Greg Teresi, Vito's partner, in the application process and discussing it with Randy, one of the concerns was obviously the shore erosion as well as the impact that it would have on the surface of, or the bed of the lake. And graciously, Randy had pointed us in the direction in some of these studies. One of the studies was with respect to the Vermont wake sport zone standards. So we're trying to offer this amenity. We think it's, like Justin had indicated, something that's already coming down the pike as far as people bringing these boats to the lake. And we're trying to provide a safer experience, a captained experience, a sober captain experience, but also a captain who's knowledgeable of the concerns of the lake, concerns related to shore erosion, related to the impact that it could have on the ecosystem. Our proposal, while the regulations would allow us to operate within 200 feet, we would restrict our operation to 500 feet, which mimics the recommendation from Vermont. Additionally, what the recommendation from Vermont was not to operate in waters where the depths are less than 20 feet. There is a depth finder on the boat that we're currently looking at, and we utilize that to ensure that we don't operate in locations where the depths are shallower than that, to try to prevent any impact and still provide the experience that some of our tourists and residents are looking for.
When you say operate in the less than acceptable depths, is that when you've got water in the tanks and someone's surfing behind you?
Correct.
With no rope, no nothing?
Correct.
They're getting the experience of the curve of the wave?
Correct.
I mean, the boat does have the ability to fill the ballast system, empty the ballast system, which obviously impacts, the depth of the boat within the water, impacts the size of the wake off the back of the boat. So the direction to, as Vito, as well as his additional captain, would be, if you're in 20 feet or less, you're not using the ballast system. If you're within 500 feet of shore, you're not surfing at all. Just to try to minimize the impacts as best we can, but still providing an experience.
Would we be trying to limit usage in the southern end of the basin?
So one of the
Completely.
things that's in the prior permit is an existing condition that says, no recreational towing south of Diamond Island. So that's something I would anticipate we probably want to, keep that in the current permit.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want to be in the southern basin.
Yeah.
Highway basin. Other than to pick up our
Yeah.
guests and bring them north. But yeah, obviously, we're well aware of the congestion down there. For us, it's get them up into the northern end or northern portions of the lake and offer, an experience where there's not that congestion.
And then the other standing condition that goes into all tour boat permits is, no recreational towing in areas over capacity, which obviously was part of your application, but that's a typical standard we would include as well.
Sure.
I know I saw someplace 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on fireworks nights.
That might be under the existing tour boat permit? Is that
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, my historical thoughts are the phone calls I've received over the last 19, 20 years from concerned homeowners about shore damage, the effect of boats, and actually up until recently, it's been the effect of the larger cruiser-style boats taking the cruiser highway as they go up out of Harris Bay, et cetera, north and south, Friday and Sunday. And they create, and as a old-time boater on the lake, family boater, they create quite a wake. So you guys have got wake competition from the big boats to the little boats.
Sure. Well, of course, those are typically recreational, boats for personal use, and I would intend on being way more cognizant of where I
Being aware of
cast
the
a wake.
issue.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'm hearing from people is on these wakeboards is typically there's loud music being played coming from the boom boxes on the, I don't know what it is, the superstructure, whatever. And sometimes it's very loud, even 500 feet offshore. But I don't know what we do on noise in this park commission. Not a lot.
No.
There is a standard in the tour boat regulations that speaks to noise and staying under a certain decibel. I don't remember it offhand. But that's something, if you guys, I don't know if you're planning to play music.
So, of course, we play music, but being the captain on the boat, it's just like when you're driving and you're pulling up to your destination, you want to lower the music so you can see better and pay attention, right? It's the same thing. So I try to keep the volume to a minimum. That way I can operate safely and be aware of my surroundings and everything going on in and outside of the boat. So we don't blast music like that,
Just out of curiosity, where do you typically do your tours when you guys head north?
So it sort of depends on the duration of the tour, but oftentimes, of course, we get up past north of Diamond Island, we head into the Log Bay area, cut across into Bolton Landing by the Sagamore, and we work our way back in. If it's tours of like 4 hours, perhaps, then we get into the Narrows, and up to Paradise Bay. Sometimes we even get as far up by the Chapel of Isaac Jogues, but that's generally where we are.
And just because the boat's moving, you're not necessarily always have somebody on a surfboard behind you.
Correct.
I mean, they may be just riding along at certain points.
Yeah, for the purposes of the tour, the actual act of wakeboarding would be a smaller fraction.
Secondary to the ride.
Secondary to the ride, yeah.
Yeah, and they also did include, sightseeing, water skiing, tubing, water taxi, as in addition to the wake surf.
Yeah.
We have a resolution?
Yes, Resolution 2026-13, approval A Marina and tour boat modification. Application number is M265002. Applicant is LGBC LLC and True North Boat Tours LLC. Whereas the applicant has applied to modify a Class A marina and add a tour boat, and the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. The Commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, 6 NYCRR 617.5, and as lead agency for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment, and whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NY CRR 6455.3, public notice has been published and distributed consistent with the regulations, and the applicant has demonstrated that the facility and activity comply with the Class A marina requirements of 6 NY CRR 646-1.2B and tour boat requirements of 646-1.1D. And the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the product, and will not alter the essential character of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, will not have an undue visual or cultural audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves the above application with the following conditions. Proposed special conditions to be updated, conditions of the existing tour boat permit, TB 22-506, and also no recreational towing or wake sports may be conducted south of Diamond Island. No recreational towing or wake sports shall occur in areas identified as overcapacity in the 2025 Lake George recreational study. So moved. As per these.
Motion's made.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays? Carried. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Law Enforcement Committee report. A little bit early today for that. 11 o'clock. We did have a Law Enforcement Committee report, and the lieutenant told us about one of our new boats that's finishing completion and will be in possession of it soon. Rehabilitating a couple of the older boats. The remainder of the boats were put away ready to launch in the spring, which means we're ready to go when Mother Nature's ready to go. We'll begin daily operations on May 1st and scheduling boater education classes in the next few weeks. Classes in May, June, and July have been proposed. And that was pretty much it for the Law Enforcement Committee. Motion?
Yep. Resolution 2026-14, acceptance of the law enforcement report. Whereas the Law Enforcement Committee met on March 24, 2026 to review matters pertaining to the Lake George Park Commission Marine Patrol and the Commission's law enforcement program. Whereas active law enforcement cases and their status were reviewed in executive session, and the Law Enforcement Committee has reported on the results of the committee meeting at this full commission meeting, and the Law Enforcement Committee recommends acceptance of this month's law enforcement report. Now therefore be resolved, the commission accepts the report of the Law Enforcement Committee. So moved.
Second.
Motion's made, motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, it's carried. Which leads us to item 9, public comments. Mr. Hall.
Will the new water-based recreation study address wake boats? And if you're recommending that they stay within or out beyond 500 feet of shore, is that going to become a new regulation, or is that already?
We don't know. I think that's been a backroom conversation for quite a while since wake boats have been established or started being available. I think right now we're in the data gathering stage.
Yeah, the 2025 recreation study is complete, so wasn't any particular information on wakeboards in that. There is regionally kind of a push to look more closely at wakeboards and best management practices. In this case, we simply made the applicant aware of them, and they were happy to oblige and propose that on their own. So in this case, in all things, really just looking for people to practice best management practices, but we'll continue to collect data on it and see if it's an appropriate thing for Lake George. But at this time,
I guess I was under the
Nothing
impression-
specific.
Under the impression that because of Lake George's size, that there was not as big of an impact on wakeboard boats as it is in smaller lakes, but perhaps I was wrong about that. That it is something you're
Well, I think there is. I think it's an uncontrollable impact. Because if you, I can remember Bruce Lundgren as an example, where they lived on the east side, close to the water, boathouse down. And, you know, Bruce was a longtime close personal friend, so maybe that made a difference. But he would just talk to me about boats that be coming across the lake with, for instance, a water skier. So, and that may end up being the exact same issue that the wake boat creates. And so they make a turn, and so, you know, as your boat tips and you turn, the water skier comes around, the homeowner gets, if he's sitting on his dock, gets a lot more water activity. It may just be an uncontrollable issue. It's a lake and it's a boat, beginning and end. I don't know. So,
If we were to put, or whoever puts regulations in place, there's no grandfathering. People would have to comply at that point, right?
Right.
yeah. And the industry itself may make the problem go away. I mean, if they don't sell them, well, they're not going to make them. So, to answer your question, we don't know.
For quote, is that a quote? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's not going to be the headline of your article, is it?
Chairman doesn't know.
Chairman doesn't know,
Yeah.
Aaron.
Use that other photo you got.
We find it.
Chris, you're the only other public member here. You want to speak to nobody?
I'll pass an invite up. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Novitsky, Lake George Waterkeeper. I want to thank the Commission for their assisting us in putting out information for the septic system grants as you do your reports and letters and containing information for people that may need assistance. So we just want to thank Commission on that and inform the Commission that we do have some more funding for stormwater grants. So people who may cross paths with the Commission on applications, we have grants up to $10,000 for addressing stormwater from existing impervious surfaces or where there may be known sedimentation problems or erosion. So just want to make you aware of that.
Super.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Any member would like to bring up any other trivial matter or non-trivial? Yes, Mr. Mason.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Done.
All in favor? Aye.